So what can I say about the Death Note movie that hasn't already been said? This movie deserves an Oscar. Hands down the best movie of the year. Still a better love story than Twilight. So after seeing all the backlash from the movie, I gotta admit that I wasn't too, on the backlash. I mean, I gotta admit, it wasn't the best movie at all. In no way was this movie perfect, okay? I just kind of feel that, it was just a lot of disappointment for fans. Because really, I mean, it's not that it was a terrible movie, but it wasn't what fans wanted. And I feel like that's the point that everybody's just trying to get across, when they're calling this movie trash and stuff. I don't know what people were really expecting, I mean, you can't really expect it to be, perfect or true to the series. I mean, based off the casting, we already knew, this movie's not going to be anything like the original anime series, at all. Which, by the way, watching the movie, the guy who plays Light, he kind of looked a little familiar, and I was kind of like, where's this guy from? But he's actually from that Nickelodeon show way back in the day, if you remember. It was called the Naked Brothers Band.
Crazy car. Crazy car.
Yeah, try getting that song out of your head. So after everybody's already critiqued the film and reviewed it, basically leaving it for the birds, like me, I figured I'd give it my 2 cents of what I thought of the film. Because I did see it, and, I am a huge fan of the anime. It's one of, my favorite animes of all time. And I gotta say, I thought it was an alright, spin on the series. It was in no way a perfect film at all. There was so many parts in the beginning that just felt so sped up and just so rushed. And I'm pretty sure you all can agree with me too, those have seen it. Because literally within the first 5 minutes, he already has a death note, and you already see their first death and everything. And you really don't even get to have the connection with Light, as you did in the anime, where you actually got to see him, grow, and, you got to hear his, inner thoughts of what he actually thought, of, certain situations, and, how he got himself out of that. And you, from the get-go, knew that Light was different. You knew that he was very smart, and in the film, you never really get to see that. There's never any indication of how smart Light really is, compared to the anime series. I thought that L was actually a really good character in the film. He actually was portrayed at least a lot more similar than Light was in the anime. I like how they stuck to where he's addicted to candy and sweets, just like in the anime. And I think that it's actually briefly explained why he likes sweets so much. I think it says in the anime that it has to do something with his brain, his mind is just constantly burning calories. Something I thought was cool was the little Easter eggs that they put in. One of them that caught my eye was how Watari gives Light's father an ice cream cone, and that does actually happen in the anime too. And of course he still had that same confused look on his face, what, and I thought that was pretty cool, and I'm pretty sure other anime fans caught on to that as well. So I'm just going to briefly explain what I liked about the film, what I didn't like about the film, and what I would have changed about the film if I would have had a say in it. Okay, so what I really liked about the movie, if I have to say, is, I mean, the death scenes were very, graphic, and they were just brutal all around. I mean, they were portrayed very well, and the visual animations were just really good. Another thing is, the character choices were actually pretty good. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, the actor who portrayed L, he did that pretty well and pretty spot on. Light's actor was alright, not so believable at times, but he did pretty good, I just thought it was hilarious how he's always screaming. I mean, he's always yelling and screaming. Honestly, the whole time I was watching the film, and whenever Light would yell, oh, dude, I would just I would just burst out laughing because I just couldn't take it seriously anymore. Of course, the star of the show was Willem Dafoe. I mean, my god, that guy was made to play Ryuk. I mean, the visuals for him, even the movie, were just so top-notch. It just looked so believable to me, I didn't see anything that looked cheesy about Ryuk at all. He literally looked like a new adaptation of what I guess we would think Ryuk looked like. Even the details in his hair that looked like little needles of some sort, stuff like that I paid attention to, and I really appreciated in the character models, down to just his leather clothing. And I like that they kind of just show him from afar. They never really show him the light per se. And I thought that was pretty cool because it just gives you a constant wonder of what does he really look like. I also really like that they added more character, to Mia in the film than in the original anime. Because in the anime, she's kind of just seen as a model. Yeah, she's kind of, a main character sort of, but she's not really portrayed as too smart and stuff. And in the film, Mia is an actual rebel girl. And, you know, of course, at the end of the film, like, you see that she just wants to be, I guess, better than Light, you know, as to what Light is trying to do. I thought that was actually pretty cool, and that was a really good twist. That was something that totally caught me by surprise, and something that I honestly just didn't see coming, like, at all. So the main thing that I didn't like about the film is how they changed the rules of the Death Note, because I mean that could have led to so many more like potential parts within the film, like maybe even for comedic relief and such. Like when Light first met Ryuk, he freaked out, right? He started screaming and yelling, and I mean they could have made it to where when Mia first meets Ryuk by touching the Death Note, she actually probably doesn't freak out. She probably thinks he's cute or something. It's actually like wow, like you know. And I mean that could have actually been a cool part. Like I see it in my head and like that sounds pretty funny to me, you know? That could have been something that, you know, I think audiences would have liked that. And of course also what I didn't like about the film is like, you know, the lack of backstory between all the characters. I mean like with Light for example, like you never get to see how smart he really is until like the end of the movie when he comes up with like this huge plan and how he did it to, you know, I guess kill Mia or whatever, you know, it just doesn't feel right. You feel like as a watcher, you know, you kind of feel like, well, how is he smart? Like, how is that even smart to begin with? I mean, as a fan of the anime, you know that Light is just very smart. But in the movie, it doesn't really show that as much, you know? Also, I mean, not just Light, but even L. Like, L is supposed to be like a super genius, you know? They don't really show too much about that. I mean, yeah, they talk about it. Like, they talk about how he was like the student that excelled in like all his classes or something like that in that academy that Wataru was in. But it doesn't really explain how or why, you know, he came to be like that. It just explains like, oh, he was just a really smart student in this academy that I made. But there's nothing else to that, you know? Like, it would have been cool if they showed like actual like, you know, like backstory, like cases that he solved, like cases that were so hard. You know, just like little clips like that would have been and added more to the story and overall just more to the movie that I think audiences would have really liked and appreciated. If I could change anything about the film, of course I would have kept the rules the same as they are in the anime for the Death Note. And I also would have wanted more of a backstory, you know, between Light and Mia. And I feel like a good way the writers could have wrote that in is maybe having Light, you know, always admiring Mia from afar, you know, he has a crush on her. And then in the midst of Light becoming Kita, you know, he finds out that Mia herself is obsessed with Kita. So he eventually reveals himself to her that he is in fact Kita, you know, in return for her affection. Because literally, like, in the movie, the way they end up connecting is like, hey, Misa. Misa? Mia, whatever. Come here, I want to show you something. Okay. Look, I have this book that can literally kill people just by writing their name in it. Oh, you mean like a burn book? No, not like that. Look, I'll show you. Look, there's a criminal right now holding a bunch of people hostage at this exact moment. Wow, how convenient. Look, I wrote down his name, and any second now. Oh wow, I believe you now. Great. Now let's go back to my place and make out. Okay. Another thing I would have changed about the film is, you know, the backstory as to why he wants to commit these murders. That could have easily led back to his mother's killing. You know, maybe he just wants to avenge his mother, like in a Batman type way, and like he just wants to rid the world of like criminals and murderers. But of course that just gets way out of hand. And lastly, the thing I would have changed is the backstory to L, because there could have been more visuals and just more backstory about L. You know, they could have showed like, you know, him back in his like academy where he's just like the student that just excels all the odds and is just better than all the other students. And you know, maybe even like a little backstory as to why he's so obsessed with candy. You know, I think that would have been pretty cool and something that fans would have really enjoyed. And I guess as an added bonus, if I were to change the cast of Light and L as actors in the film, I would have easily chosen Evan Peters to portray L from American Horror Story, just because I feel like his characteristics really do suit L from the anime, and I feel like he could have really nailed that based on what I've seen from American Horror Story. And as far as Light goes, I think I would have chosen Zac Efron. I mean, I know that's kind of a random pick, but I mean, Zac Efron is going to be playing Ted Bundy in a serial killer movie soon, so I mean, anything's possible, you know? But anyway, let me know what you thought of the movie down below, and whether you agree with me or not, and, you know, be sure to like and subscribe for more videos, and I'll see y'all next time.